We're live. And I have not yet cleared my mouth. This is the pre-show. We go live at 3 minutes after the top of 4 o'clock, or top of the hour, wherever you are. And here's Wendy. She's here with me.
Hello.
And hello. Welcome back to London.
I am in London, maybe.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so we're not broadcasting live on the radio station today. We had some technical issues.
Yes.
And so he's playing a rebroadcast on the radio station. Excuse me. Wow. That waited until I went live.
Yeah.
Wow, Wendy, you look great. No, that was a wow. I was burping on air.
Thank you.
So, yeah. So here we go. We go in about a minute and 45 seconds.
In a squidgy minute. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. It's kind of weird being back in my little, well, my lounge, but it's kind of weird not being seen in my little window in Calgary, in my best friend's bedroom that she donated to me.
That was nice.
Yeah. She's like, don't show my bras lying on this. Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, I did actually. I think I did show them quite a few times.
Oh, oops. That's my roommate's bra. Hey, yeah. Romeldian, how you doing? Good to see you. Welcome. We're still in the pre-show for another minute. And so I'm going to do a big no-no on live radio, and I'm going to pop something in my mouth.
Oh, he did it. He went there.
I went there.
Uh-huh.
My nose is extra red today. Look at that.
You look Santa.
Yeah, I'm Santa today.
Santa Claus.
Hey.
Tell me your wishes and I'll see if I can pop down your chimney and give them to you.
That's right. You pop right down my chimney and... Whoa, okay, hold on. We got something that's trying to connect to the stream and I don't want it to.
Oh.
Because of the technical issues. Hey, Emerald Eagle, good to see you. All right, Wendy, we're going to start this show in about 9 seconds. So you just sit right there. We don't even have to go dark today because we're already here. We're just going to hit our bread and we'll roll with it. So here we go. Stand by. Well, good afternoon, good evening, and good night to everybody who's out there listening. Nice to see you, Wendy. Good to see you today.
Good to see you, Mr. Roberts.
And you look as ravishing as ever.
Not bad for jet lag. Not bad for jet lag.
And I love you for your brains. So, cheers.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So welcome to Robertson, everybody. We appreciate the fact that you would give us your time and come here and listen to what we have to say about anything or nothing. And of course, somebody wants to try to call me while I am on air. So I did not silence myself here. So pardon me for that, folks. It was a call from Tennessee. That's all I can tell you.
Okay.
So, so here we are. Welcome, Susie Q, Emerald Eagle, Chief Romeldian. Everybody that's starting to file in, welcome to the program today. We are not airing live on Subspace Radio today. They're doing a rebroadcast because of some technical issues. So you're going to catch us just on the YouTube channel and on the Facebook channels.
Yep.
So welcome to the program. So how's it feel, Wendy, being back home in London after spending a couple of weeks in Calgary?
Strange. Hemmed in, like really hemmed in, because London obviously is incredibly busy. Hemmed in and haven't got the openness. I'm jet lagged. I miss my best friend. I'm missing Calgary and missing so much about Calgary. And I'm missing it all. But it's nice to be home and be with my little guy.
Henry. Is he back there still lounging on the sofa? There he is.
Yeah, he's asleep on the sofa.
Well, that's good. Yeah. I'll bet he was happy to see you.
Well, he kind of looked at me, first of all, much to say, like, oh, you're back.
Oh, you're home. I was having so much fun.
When he got the treats and the new jumper and everything he got, he was kind of like, oh, okay. So, yeah, but it's nice to be home, but I've got my heart in two places.
I understand that. Well, that brings up the big question that we started asking off air, and that we want to ask today of everybody. Yeah. What do you do? Well, let's put it this way. The title for today's show was something to the effect of, if I got the wording right, are you living the life you wanted to live? Are you living the life you expected you would live? Are you enjoying the life you're living, though it might not be the one that you thought you would be living? It's a wordful. That's a word salad going on there. But the idea is, and I'm asking you directly, and it's not to necessarily raise any raw emotions or anything like that, but raw emotions are good. But I would ask you, what's it feel like in your situation? And I know that this covers all different kinds of situations for people. Are you where you want to be? Or is there somewhere else you want to be?
In my life, I think in myself, I'm finally who I wanted to be, as in the fact that I understand myself so much more, and I am okay. And it's finally taken me years to really like myself, but I think I'm finding that. Still got my demons, still have my insecurities like everybody else.
Yeah.
Am I where I want to be? That would be no.
Okay. Where do you want to be?
Well,
by the way, let me interrupt after asking the question. I'm not asking you to reveal secrets, although you can if you wish. The question is more general. Where do you want to be? Where is it you thought you'd be compared to where you are?
Mark and I did a similar podcast, and we talked about, are we where we expected to be? And truth is, no, I don't know if any of us are ever in that space where we expect to be, because I thought I'd be a mum. I thought I would have good health and I would have a home of my own and a family. That didn't work out. That didn't happen. I've wanted to travel a lot more and pop around the world and see that. I've been very lucky to do some, but I'd still love to do more. And I never thought I would be torn between two countries like I have been for the past 17 years.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So no, not really.
Okay, if that's your full answer to that question.
And where right back at you.
Say that again. I'm not hearing.
Right back at you.
Yep, exactly. Well, then let me say there are places I thought I would be by now, things I thought I would be doing, goals I wanted to achieve. Now, goals are maybe a little different thing because they're always things that you're striving to reach. I think when goals get surpassed, here I can sum it up this way. Remember the Mexican actor Ricardo Montalban?
Yes.
Those of you who need a reference point, of course, he was on Fantasy Island in that series in I believe the 70s or the 80s, and he was also Khan in The Wrath of Khan, Star Trek. Some iconic roles, but he was a movie actor for a long time. And I saw him in an interview before he passed away. This is in the mid-1980s. And he was asked by the interviewer, he said, he says, "What are your dreams?" He said to him. And this just popped into my mind. The interviewer said, "What are your dreams in life?" And he's looking at the interviewer. He's not looking into the camera. He's looking at the interviewer and he says, "Oh," he says in his accent, he says, "My dreams were shattered long ago." And that's all he said. And the interviewer kind of stumbled with that a little bit and it went on. But how many of us are in that position where we look at where we are? And it's generally as you start getting out of your youth and you start, I don't want to say you're not in old age by any means, Wendy. I'm not in old age, although I'm getting older. And it's generally when you get to certain points in life that you start to ask, okay, I'm not a youth anymore.
Yeah.
Why am I not where my trajectory was supposed to send me? Why am I not there? And can you look at yourself and do you say, no, Daniel Onger, this is live. This is not pre-recorded.
Yeah.
I just saw his question pop up. This is live. And so I would ask, maybe querying myself in a little bit, and I ask everybody out there, are there things that the place you are in life right now, is this where you saw yourself ending up? Some people might go, even better. I'm in a better place than I ever thought I'd be. I never dreamt I would go this far or get this way, get to this place. And then there are some who will say the total opposite end of that. I expected to be in a very different place right now. I didn't expect to go through this or that or the other thing. Life threw some curveballs at me, and therefore I am not where I want to be. And they could be very disappointed. Then there are those who are kind of the middle of the road. And those middle of the road people might say, hey, I'm working on it. I'm striving to be there. But then there are those who will have the grass is greener on the other side of the pasture syndrome. And we've all experienced some of that. Oh, man, I would rather be over there than where I am here.
Yeah.
And so we all experience that. If you were to categorize yourself, Wendy, put you on the spot, where do you believe you are in that? I'll tell you where I am, but I want you to go first.
That's a tough one, actually. I feel very blessed in my life right now, which I didn't. I think I feel blessed in my life more than 10 years ago, more than 5 years ago, more than 2 years ago, because I have found in my personal life great peace and satisfaction with the true friends that I have in my life. And I'm a Capricorn. We compartmentalize. Is that the right word? Compartmentalize?
Yeah, compartmentalize.
Each and everything and I have very good friends that I can probably count on one hand, actually, and very good friends of other kinds in others, more than I had years ago, who actually really know me and have my back. So I think I am very, very lucky there. My dreams probably were shattered, as in the fact something was taken from me a long time ago. And that was, I guess, where relationships was concerned. I think when you've had your heart shattered and broken and stabbed all over more than once and abusive, I would say that where relationships are concerned, I'm probably not where I thought, I'm just, that remains, that era of my life remains difficult. It's not the case I don't want to be with someone. I would love to have something stable and steady and build on something. It just doesn't seem that easy to find that. But I think the hardest thing for me is the constant battle between two countries, which I never thought when I was young. Never thought where I'd be now, as in the fact that there's a true saying, you would never, once you've found yourself in somewhere else and once your heart lies somewhere else, you're never completely at peace and at home again. And I'm not, because I'm torn between two sides of the Atlantic, and it's tearing me apart, because family and history and circumstances in one country, and loved ones and wanting to start a new life in another, and it's not that easy to just give up like that. So I am trying very hard to make a dream come true, but it's not without its problems. But having said that, I'm also blessed because I work with you, I work with Mark.
Yeah,
I have blessings as well as difficulties.
I understand that.
Hope that
I also have some of those same types of disappointments.
Yeah.
There are things you thought you would be going in this direction, and you find, oh, I'm going in that direction.
Mm-hmm.
You thought I would be accomplishing this. I remember when I was still in my early 20s saying, by the time I'm 30, I plan to have my own publishing company and be settling back for retirement by 31.
Mm-hmm.
I laugh now because that didn't happen. Now, were those unrealistic expectations? No. But underneath all of that is that drive to get somewhere and to be something and to do something. Now, as a man, I might have a little different approach to that whole question than you, a woman, because we have that male-female language thing, the way we all physiologically sort through issues of life. And for me, there are certain expectations I placed on myself to say, this is what I am. A man has certain things that fulfill him. A woman has certain things that fulfill her. Now, tell me if I'm wrong in this, and this is an over generalization, but men are basically, men are, to use an old term, self-esteem. Their self-esteem, their fulfillment, their all of that comes usually out of the things they create, which means their jobs, hunting, whatever it might be, all the things that guys do.
Yeah.
The things to conquer something and make it happen. Women, on the other hand, tend to be, again, generally speaking, it's not that they don't have those same goals and aspirations or dreams, but women, generally speaking, are satisfied on a more of an emotional basis. Their relationships, their children, their families, things like that are the more fulfilling things for women. Now, nobody get offended or go ape shit on me out there, because you know what? That's a generalization. That's generally speaking, that's what men and women are like. And so when those things are lacking for us, we either compensate in other areas or do other things in other areas. And we try to assuage the either disappointments we have in where we've come up, or the guilt for perhaps not reaching the place that we thought we would reach. And then if you think about it enough, sometimes you're disappointed in yourself in front of other people that know you. I was going to do this and I'm not where I want to be, and I'm embarrassed.
Yes.
Or things like that.
Yeah.
And so we all experience that.
Yes.
And I've got some things I wanted to share, but I don't want to monopolize the time either. I want to get into that. But if you've got any input on any of what I just said, what's your take on that?
Lots. I mean, I wanted to be a mum, and I lost two babies, and there would be 18 and 11. And I find it very hard that part of me felt as a woman, I wasn't a woman. I wasn't a proper woman because I couldn't have children. And my sister was still having babies at 45. Wow. And she was the older sister. And so it was very difficult for me, and still is at times, to see that I'm never going to have pictures of children. grandchildren on my wall. You know, I'm never, and when I die, everything dies with me. I'm not going to have anything to pass down. My personal genes and everything else dies with me, and that was very, very hard to come to terms with. And there are days that you still struggle, and as a woman, you know, you actually feel like, I mean, I actually had it said by a particular ex who was quite abusive, but it was like,
exes. Go ahead.
What use are you to women? You know, what uses are you? You can't have a family. And you know, people can be, and then people say things like, oh, you don't want children, or you can have mine, or, you know, at least you'll have a social life, at least you'll get a good night's sleep, and all these things which I think people say when they can't do it, right? Yes. And they try and make you feel better. There is no words, you know. The fact that I would have had 2 children, and the second miscarriage was really difficult for me. You know, I still feel very strongly that little one, you know, I would have so loved to have had that. I mean, the first one I didn't actually know I was, but the second one I actually did. So there's that side to me that still feels that regret. And it's easy to say don't have regrets. That's you are what you're meant to have. It's disappointment, whatever word you want to use. It's a sadness in me that nothing else feels. You know, and I've got great nephews, sorry, Jacob, a great nephew, and I've got nieces and nephews and everything, but it's not the same. And I think also with my health has caused me a lot of issues in my life. People look at me and they go, you're not really ill, are you? You know, what, you don't look ill, you don't act like an ill person. And that really has, over in my lifetime, really affected me, because it's like, you can't always see disabilities, you can't always see what's wrong with someone. Don't compare, you know, that's that word, don't judge people because of what you can't see. But I've had so many people in my lifetime throw that at me, and that's a particular one. I felt not good to society, not good enough for people, you know, when I've not been able to get up and do things and go places, or you know, that's another time where I felt guilty. I have felt guilty of not being able to be like everyone else. And then we come to the big decision, which is like, do I leave my country? And I have wanted to go for so long. Everybody in my life knows that. It's never been a secret. It's amazing how a city girl crossed over into a country girl, and the guilt of leaving my family, the guilt of leaving my mum, and you know, and also it's with you constantly, because they all wish you well, but if you go and God forbid something happens, that's an 8.5-hour flight back before you're there, and you're constantly think, even when I go away, you know, you think about that, because my mum's of an age now, bless her. My sister's not great in herself, so there's all this. So, and then there's the guilt. If I don't go, I'm letting myself down. I'm letting down my dream, and people are looking at me going, I thought you were going to do this, Wendy. I thought you were going to be there by now. I thought you were going to do that. And it's like, do you know how difficult it is? It's so difficult, because financially, and from an immigration point of view, it's so much you have to go through. So I absolutely relate of the guilt and the regret and the going over, the self-analyzing. And Dave's just written, you should not put yourself in the back for carrying yourself in a way that often hides the pain. People don't want to see your pain. I mean, this is apart from a very close few friends. People don't want to see your pain. They really, really don't. They can't handle it. They don't know what to say. And when they do, they go, oh, you know, it'll be all right. You'll sort yourself out. Or you don't sometimes need that. What you want is just someone to go, listen, you know, it's a tough journey, but if anyone can do this, I think whatever way you choose, you're gonna do it. So, you know, it's not always easy. So absolutely, Scotty, I get where you're coming from. Totally.
And then there is that guilt factor. The guilt factor that comes in is the guilt of saying, I don't want to burden my friends with my issues.
Yeah.
I need somebody to talk to, or I want to talk about this, or I want to share this. And you do when you can, but then there are times that you say, everybody's got their own kettle of fish, so to speak.
Yeah.
Everybody's got their own problems. When you and I have talked many times over the years, we will sometimes talk to each other about our pains and our disappointments and our things, at the same time realizing the other person has experienced all these same things. And
Yeah.
so we're kind of like, at times, you can understand this, so I'm going to unload this on you. Or you will say to me, you can understand this, so I can unload on you.
Yeah.
And so there's that, but there are only certain people that you can do that with.
Yes.
If you come out all the time talking about problems on social media, things like that, which I've done in the past, and you talk about this problem or that, health issues.
Oh my God.
To get
anything on social media now. I might just give a broad line. I don't talk about anything now.
That's and Viking off-roading says, is that Yorkshire tea in your cup?
It isn't. It's actually chamomile. It's actually chamomile.
Oh, nice. Mine is coffee. I'm drinking coffee. Caribou coffee.
I have to have decaf in now. I can't do caffeinated, but yeah.
I can't do decaf. It's like drinking non-alcoholic beer.
Yeah.
Why?
What's the point? I know.
But I have a couple of notes I put down here, and I'm thinking about there's this concept of, I think, sad love, you can almost call it. It's the emotion of sadness can be felt in so many situations, and it's particularly profound in the experience that we have in disappointment.
Yeah.
When we're disappointed with who we are, with where we are, with what we've achieved, with mistakes we've made. Now, I remember, I have to put in a Star Trek reference here. There was one film where there was a person that could take away your pain. And everybody's saying to Kirk, they're saying, you need to do this. You should see. He says, no. He says, I don't want my pain taken away. He says, my pain is what moves me forward.
That's right.
My pain, I don't need to know. I already know. He said, I already know where I've turned left, where I should have turned right. He said, I don't need anybody to take that away. I need my pain. And I think that's what we forget, is we have this fear of being disappointed. And so sometimes we never step out and try anything. You have the fear, you could call it the fear of failure. Sadness in general is something that's triggered. It's a heavy emptiness that we feel. It's a longing. It's felt because our brain's appraisal system of where we are in life has determined that we haven't experienced something the way we should have. And it's ended up in this, what we chalk up as loss or failure. And maybe it's because sometimes we want something that's unattainable. Maybe it's unrequited. Maybe it's something that was lost along the way. Whatever it is that causes our sadnesses, it has to do with finally recognizing something that we had has subsequently been denied to us in one form or another. It may be us that have brought on the denial. It may be another person that's brought on denial. It may be, it's usually people, isn't it, though? Well, when we come down to it, corporate entities are all people, so it can't be a corporation. It's a disconnection from someone or something that we value and we want to value, and we may even crave to value. And it differs qualitatively or temporarily from grief, which might have this greater impact on our perception of the world. And it's much longer lasting, this kind of disappointment. But sadness, expound on this a little bit if you can. Again, I'm attacking you with a lot of topics that we didn't talk about ahead of time, kind of put you on the spot, but I know your capabilities and I know your brain. So sadness is a thing that helps us remember rather than forget what it is that we desired. What's your thought on that?
I think the things that hurt you, I think the things that, I mean, don't get me wrong, happiness and good times, we never forget them, but and the joy that they bring. But I think pain and sadness tends to perhaps haunt us a lot. I think sometimes we can be haunted by the famous words, what could have been, what might have been. How many people have had relationships where they really loved somebody and or there was the promise of something and then the other person just disappeared and that leaves you heartbroken or ends it. And then, you know, a career that was stopped in the beginning of when it was promising, and you're left with something else, that your dream has been crushed. So I think those ones perhaps haunt us and stay with us longer. For instance, also like when we lose someone we love through death, or the things that we didn't say stay with us for a lifetime as well. I wish I'd said this. I wish I hadn't done that. If I had the time again, if I could just say this to them, I would. And I know this only too well. You know, I've been talking to quite a few people recently that have lost loved ones, and that's something that comes through. And they never knew how much I loved them. I never said what I should have done. We, as human beings, naturally have those emotions going through us. And I think for me, it was like, I never wanted to, you know, I had a boyfriend once, and he said to me, I never want to leave people not know, you know, for the rest of their life, not having said something to them, not actually having that. But actually, you can't always say what you want to say to people, because they either don't want to talk to you, or they're not around, or they're with someone else. So I think sadness stays with us longer, and it haunts us. And, you know, David quite rightly, Uncle Dave quite writes that sadness is the glowing ember of love, past all joys lost, that remind you of the flame that was there. And that's very, very true, because I've loved people that I've lost, but I still love them. And probably part of me will always love them. But it just didn't work out. And you know, it's better to have had them for a short time. People used to say that to me, better to have loved than have lost. And actually, sometimes that's worse. Once you know what you've had and then you lose it, you actually know what you've lost. Or there's the other one, unrequited love, where you love someone and, you know, they don't love you in the same way. Or if you really want to be with someone and you can't be with them for whatever reason, you don't live in the same country, they're married to someone else, or, you know, they just don't find you attractive or whatever, you live with that as well. As human beings, we're haunted by ghosts.
Yes. I would say too, I would add this wrinkle that sometimes you can go through experiences where I'm going to use a personal example. My ex-wife, dun dun dun, or as some would say, my ex-wife was a horrible person. She had her good qualities, obviously, and I fell in love with her at one point. We got married, but she turned into a very horrible person, and we were divorced. Obviously, we had 3 children. We went to court over those children. I was given sole custody of my children. I don't know if it's used the same language as used in Great Britain, but which meant my children came to live with me full time, and she had visitation. And she was a constant sword thorn in the side of my family. From the time my daughters were about 10 and my son was 2, all the way up until they're now 31 and he's 22. And at 18, 4 years ago, he was out from underneath that situation when he turned 18. So all that to say, somebody who turned into a rather horrid person
Yeah.
Still good looking. I would have called her, even to this day, very cosmopolitan, very intelligent. But for all the pain that she gave my children, my son has not spoken to her in over 4 years, and he plans not to. There is such deep wounds there, and that wounded me for them. This person became a very horrid person to have to live with, or I didn't live with her, but to deal with, live life with in general regarding my kids. Yet, with all that pain, all that separation, that divorce, that disillusion of all relationship, there is still that little spark in there that remembers the love I had for her. And I have warm-heartedly told the story of this very same woman I've just talked about. Now, we've been divorced for almost 22 years. But I remember back to when we were married 12 years before that, 1989. We got married. It was a smaller ceremony at the church. I had been married before. And so we got married, and we had a small, nice, she had been married before, so we did a small ceremony with the pastor, and we still had 150 people show up.
Wow.
But it was nice. And because we rented out the church, there we are, and I had a tux. She had her wedding dress. We're vacuuming the room and stuff like that when everybody's gone home, folding tables. Well, we went out to a local restaurant. Uncle Dave will know this restaurant, Perkins. Local, just one of those, it's not fast food, but it's a step above that. And we're sitting there, and it was 1 a.m, something like that. And the post-bar rush crowd was out. So the place was packed at 1 a.m. Well, we're seated, still in tux, still in wedding dress, and we're getting coffee, and we're exhausted. And I remember we're sitting there and we're just drinking coffee going, hey, that ended up rather nicely. All of a sudden, what do we hear in the restaurant? Everybody's tapping on their cups, which, have the bride and groom kiss. Yeah. So we stood up, we kissed, and we toasted everybody. Everybody cheered for us, and it was a packed house. Now, I think back on that event, that is a wonderful, good memory of somebody that I was in love with and that I loved and that I was looking forward to spending the rest of my life with. Now, that emotion has turned into, thank God, that harrowing experience of divorce and custody and all of that junk is over, and I've moved on in my life, and I can realize that was not the best place to be. So you can still have even hurtful experiences with somebody, breakups that were horrid, and still have loving memories of somebody.
I mean, I agree, because I'm honest about it. I've been married twice, and my first husband, Vincent, was an amazing person, and he's in Portugal now. But he's an amazing guy, and I'm so blessed to have him in my life. And I look back to our wedding day, and we never had a bad divorce. We never had a terrible relationship. We grew. I think I grew. No, the truth is, you're on mute. You've just gone mute. That's it. I think I grew apart from him. I certainly wasn't ready. My second marriage, incredibly painful. And I look back to our wedding day, using that as an example, and so much hope, so much promise, so much. He was. But I will say this, and I've said this while I was in Canada. If I hadn't met my second hubby, I wouldn't have Canada. I wouldn't have my best friend. I wouldn't have a wonderful friends in over there. I wouldn't have had the opportunity. I wouldn't have grown as a person. He is, without doubt, the most profound relationship I've ever had, because it changed my life for the better. I went through massive highs and massive lows, and it drove me to the point of insanity. But I have to say this, if I hadn't met him, I wouldn't be on a different path. I wouldn't have the opportunities I have now. And I had a reading just, I think I might have told you this story, literally we got married in March 2006. And a few months after, I had a reading, and they said to me, you were catalysts for each other. He's meant to be in the United Kingdom. You're meant to be in Canada. Well, at the time I just got married, I did not want to hear that. And I just didn't, and I said, what do you mean? And they said, you were always meant to meet each other and go, and go on different sides. And how many people, Scotty, would take the step to meet someone from another country, marry them, and change their life and move across the world? Not many people would.
Not many.
And not many will do it now because they're frightened. They don't. It takes a lot of guts. Or what if I do this? What if I do that? They just want the green card or the visa or whatever you want to call it. He and I took the opportunity on each other. We just went, fuck it. Let's just do this.
Let's go. Yep.
And so I actually think he was brave, just like I was, to take that chance. And so we opened up a whole new world to each other by that relationship, which at its best limped along because of infidelity and other issues. But at heart, he took a massive gamble. But when you were saying about, and I will get back to that point, which just gone to me, but literally about when you're with someone and you look back on them, now, where I am now, would I marry someone from another country? Absolutely, I would. Why? Because I've done it. It's not that hard to do, but it's like, how many people would do that? They wouldn't. And so I wanted that marriage to work greatly. And I expected it to work. Second time round, I know more. I'm wiser. This one will work. I learned a lot in the second one. And when it doesn't, you kind of feel like the biggest failure going. It's like, oh God, it's failed 6.5 years down the line. I'm a failure. And what am I going to do? So
how has that affected decisions that you make, that you start to encounter? Is this future decisions or decisions in the present? How much of you do you feel is locked back in some of that?
Well, it's changed me forever, because literally I am not the same woman that I was when we got married. My trust level is not as, it's very, if I know you and I trust you, I let you in. And it takes a while to get there because, he changed that in me. And although people say, and I've had counseling and done all the stuff that you're supposed to do, but it was supposed to work. Like, this saying yourself with two marriages, it was supposed to work. It wasn't supposed to fail. And he wasn't supposed to be with another English woman. He was supposed to be with me. Right. And then I went to see another medium. When I came back I'd been gone on and off for 2 years. And when I came back and he was due to come over, my sister said to me, there's this medium and I think you should go see him. And I said, well, no, I don't know. I've already seen someone in Calgary. I'm not sure I want to do it. No, you should go. So I took off my wedding ring, and because I was newlywed, you couldn't see there was a white thing. And I went to see this Ivan Lee, who's a friend of mine now, but at the time I didn't know him from Adam. And he just knew everything. And he just blew my mind away with what he said to me. And he said, enjoy it while it lasts, because you've got another ring going on. This one's coming off. And I looked at him and I said, what do you mean? Trying to catch him out. And he said, this is your second marriage? And I went, yeah. And he said, well, enjoy it while it lasts, because that ring's coming off and another one will go on. And at the time, I didn't want to hear it, because my expectations of where I was going was married, have a family. This was it. This was it for life. And I had the opportunity of, and I never wanted to move. I never wanted to emigrate out of England. I liked the idea of travel, but I didn't want to leave my home. But now meeting him changed my life. Meeting him gave me that wanderlust, that travel lust, and being brave enough. I mean, I don't know how many times I've flown back to Canada in the last 17 years of my life. So
several that I know of. So,
well, probably loads. I mean, literally, I used to come home, and then when he had issues that had to be sorted with counselling, I had to go back and be there more. So, but literally, I will say, you look back and you go, if it hadn't been for that decision, like if you hadn't left, if your wife hadn't been how she was, you wouldn't now have 3 lovely children, and you wouldn't be with Rainey. And yes, you probably could have gone on another road, because as one door shuts, another one opens. But for me, he gave me the greatest love affair of my life, which was Canada. And it will always be the greatest love affair of my life, because I got to know me. And then comes that horrible decision. Do I stay in the UK? Do I move to Canada? Right. So I'm going to move to Canada. But oh my God, all the things I'm leaving behind. And what about my family? What about my mum? The guilt that goes with it. So yeah, it's a catch-22.
It certainly is. And, you know, I also think there is that factor that we deal with, and I've experienced this to some extent. There's that factor of the fear of doing something because the disappointment in the thing that failed holds you back.
Yes.
So you're afraid to step forward.
Yeah.
I would say I've experienced that myself. When I first met Rainey, loved being with her, loved the things we were doing together, loved hanging out, we were practically living together for a year. But it took all that time. Well, during all that time, what did I do? I kept her at arm's length. I said, I will never enter another relationship. We can have relationship, but I'm not going to be in a relationship. You know, and there is a difference there. And she stuck it out, and she waited for me to get it, you know. But there are things that we do. And of course, this is all we're talking, that's 17, 18 years ago now. But there are things that we do that make us hold back from moving forward.
Yes.
I've got 3 major points here that I was going to bring up about not letting the fear of disappointment determine what we're going to do, or how we're going to do, or how we're going to proceed in life. Because let's face it, you, me, everybody listening to, for the most part, I would say in general, has faced those moments where I'm so afraid of the possibility of disappointment that I'm not going to do what I would like to do. I'm not going to even open my mouth. I'm not going to say anything.
Yeah, the leap of faith.
And there are times where I've looked right at somebody in the eye and I've said, you know what? I've been holding off on saying this. I need to say this because I've been operating out of fear of disappointment or fear of rejection. That's another one.
Rejection.
Isn't it? Rejection.
And do you not find it jades you as well? You become jaded.
It does. It jades you. It jades the way you approach things. And I've got these 3 major points I wrote down that all could be episodes of this show unto themselves. But number 1 is don't globalize your disappointment.
Yes.
Now, if you globalize it in one situation to your entire life, it covers every aspect of your life. Disappointment's going to cause this absolute tremendous amount of pain. And globalization sounds kind of like this. If I don't get what I want this time, it means I'll never get what I want.
Yeah.
And that's not a pouty, spoiled brat type of tone to that. If I don't get what I want, I'll never get what. That's, you know, if I don't make it this time, if this doesn't work for me, it's never going to happen. And so sometimes we end up in avoidance. And we're going to avoid trying that thing out because we're afraid. We're afraid to cast off from the safe harbor.
Agreed.
And so these are the things that govern us at that time. If it's a relationship that hasn't worked out, what happens? You believe that you might never have another good relationship, as great as the one you lost, even if the one you lost sucked, the reasons that you lost it. So then the disappointment of that relationship not working out is going to feel absolutely monumental and overwhelming. And so what do you do to avoid that? You have to remind yourself that just because it didn't work out this time doesn't mean the future won't be different. But that is all, you know this stuff psychologically, Wendy. That's the thing. Telling yourself that and then operating on it is a really difficult thing to do sometimes. Because I could say, I know all the answers. I know the answer to that. I know how to work with that. But do we operate on that? Not all the time.
I was just thinking when you were talking, my best friend, and I often mention her in my conversations because she has a very big impact on my life, because she's one of two people in my life that I can 100% say will always be there and not let me down, and I can trust with my soul. And even if I died tomorrow, she'd know exactly what I'd want to be done and everything like that. So she always says what amazed her about me was that no matter how much I got hurt or things didn't happen, I would just keep going. I would just keep going up the mountain, up the hill. I would give my heart again. No matter, and she said, I don't know how you do it. And I would actually say, being a Capricorn, that's what we do. We keep climbing up the mountain. Even if we get knocked down, we keep climbing up there till we get there. But I have to say that as time has gone on, especially in this last year, I have changed and am changing as a person. And I am probably less tolerant, less forgiving. And if I rarely give my heart, and if I do give my heart, and I won't give it to a point where I used to. I used to be like, okay, I'll let you see Wendy's soul, but now I don't do that. I've learnt through life, whether it be work, whether it be family, whether it will be to loved ones, to hold back, to certainly not talk about it on personal media, social media. And if I do, it would be a very small outline. I certainly wouldn't discuss it on social media. The people I would talk about it to would be like on one hand. They really are on one hand. And I certainly internalize. I think you internalize a lot more now. You go, well, and you're constantly analyzing, because you've been there, done it, ticked it off. And so do you take that leap of faith like Michelle was talking about? Me too, Michelle, me too. Do you take that leap of faith and give your heart one more time? What's that word? Try and try again. And it's like, yeah. I feel in myself that I'm being torn apart. And so I've my heart now is like, you want it? You want my heart? There's the Doberman. There's the barbed wire. There's the alarm. Get over that. Get over that. Get over that. And if I see, but some see that as a challenge.
That's getting past Scylla and Charybdis.
You don't want that. You don't want that. You want them to actually be consistent, right? So I think that one thing that I've never thought I'd say at this time of my life. What do I want? Security, stability, consistency. Those three things are worth their weight in gold. And I'm not talking just financial stability, because everybody wants financial stability, emotional stability, mental stability, where your peace of mind. That is so true. And as Dave has written quite rightly, your heart is torn to shreds, but it could be sewn back together, and the stitching makes it tougher. Damn well true, Dave. Really, really damn well true. Because each time, like, our heart is an amazing thing because it has brain cells in it as well. So when we have mental or broken heart, of course we feel that pain in our heart. You know what it's like, Scotty. You've been with someone, or you've been somewhere and you miss it, or you miss them, and it hurts. and your heart is hurting. Your heart is actually hurting because it's, they work together. What do you do as life is going on? I'm 53 in January, and I can't believe it. I can't believe it. I'm going to be 53. But it's like, I have to make a decision about where the rest of my life is going to be. And that comes with sacrifice. And
sure it does.
That is painful. I either give up a dream, or I give up where I'm from.
Some of that ties into this second point. Don't personalize. I first said don't globalize your disappointment. Don't personalize your disappointment. Personalization sounds like this. If I don't get what I want, it means I'm not good enough and I don't deserve it. Mm. And that's where a lot of people end up. I know I've ended up there at times. There's times you listen to yourself too much, and you'll end up believing you can get nothing and go nowhere. And the disappointments you're talking about too, those can be, you don't have to be outside a relationship or having a relationship that ended for that to happen. You can be inside of relationships and feel completely empty.
Yeah.
And feel like there's not a fulfillment here. This is not fulfilling, and you stay with them because you're afraid of the disappointment. A lot of people here might be in those situations. I know more people that should not be in the relationships they're in. From my perspective, as somebody that's asked, what should I do?
Yeah.
I said, I can tell you what you should do, but you're not going to like it, and it's not easy.
And do you find that it's a horrible thing to say?
It is.
Younger, you could just get into relationships willy-nilly and go,
yeah,
it's fine. But now, when you get in a relationship, you're going, what is this relationship going to bring me? What can it actually do for me? And that's a terrible thing to say, but it's actually a really wise thing to think. Is this just going to be a fling? Is this going to go somewhere? Or is this just
right?
This is going to screw me up even more? Because we've been there, done it, ticked off, and life is short, and you've got to make the most of it, because we can be gone tomorrow. And the older we get, the more those words keep coming back to haunt you.
And they do. They come back and they haunt you. Yeah. And when you take your disappointments and you personalize it, and you make it about who you are as a person, and you don't take into account all the situational factors, all the outside stimuli, if you will, that had nothing to do with you, and then you apply for a job but don't receive the interview. I can tell you something right now. Just using that as an example, I've been doing what I do in life as a career for over 40 years now. I started when I was 17 years old, drawing pictures for a publisher's book covers back in 1977. And then I started getting into it professionally after I went to Bible college and seminary, and I was in ministry. I said, I'm going a different direction. I went into advertising. I was in advertising for over 30 years. And yet there are still times today where you say, I've got all of this and I'm unhireable. I'm unhireable for several reasons. One, I'll tell people, oh, you're way too experienced. I'll say, well, wouldn't you rather have somebody who knows what they're doing?
Exploit me then. Yes.
Yes. And then the other is, you're way too expensive for us. I'm like, we haven't even talked money. What makes you think I'm too expensive? Well, we couldn't pay you more than $70,000 a year. And I'll say, sold, I'll take it. And they go, oh, we don't have it for you. We gave it to somebody else. This is on that job level. And so there's those disappointments. There's the disappointments that I should be further ahead than I am. And I'm still a struggling artist, is what it comes down to. And so that's if I really personalize the job thing in the same mode that we were personalizing some relationship things. And so those are the things, and you start to say, maybe I'm not as good as I thought I was. Maybe I don't have the kind of abilities I thought I had. Now, apply this to jobs, apply it to relationships, apply it to marriages, whatever situation you're in. We start to think those things. And that's when we start to personalize the disappointment. The point here is that there are always situational factors that influence every and any event that we find ourselves in. And whether or not a situation works out the way we want it to says nothing about Wendy's worthiness or Scotty's worthiness or Ken's worthiness or Uncle Dave's worthiness or Dan's worthiness. Anybody listening to the show. It doesn't have a damn thing to do about your worthiness or your worthness in the future. And there might be some things you did to contribute to influence a situation. Divorces are generally two-sided. There's people who add and subtract from those. But it's that it was one event, and events that we experienced are not what or who we are. And that's how we tend to deal with things. And the third point, I'll just say it, is we have to learn from our disappointments. The things that disappoint you the most, Wendy, are they stepping stones for you? Do you feel? Ways to move forward? All those things that disappointed you and led to your biggest disappointments in life, do you see those now as a dreadful thing to look back on, or do you see those as things that are still influencing you, or do you see them as influencers that have moved you to a different place?
Can you see my cat with the fish at the back?
I see him back there.
He's after the fish. The fish is like, hi. Do you remember the program Lost?
Yes.
And there was a character called Locke in it.
Yes.
And Locke used to say, don't tell me what I can't do.
Right.
I've always taken that on. I could always relate to that, because when I had really bad, when my health is and was really bad, people would say, you're never going to be able to do this, Wendy. You're not going to be able to do this. And I'd be like, don't tell me what I can't do, because it will make me want to do it even more. I'm incredibly stubborn. And if I want something, I'll go and get it. I'll try to the best of my ability to get it. And I will turn over every rock till I can get it. I know Vamp is providing great entertainment right now.
He is. He's back there being entertaining.
So I would say this year was incredibly hard, because I was due to go to Canada, and everything was looking really, really good for it. And then Mr. Trudeau, thank you very much, put up the fees for international students, and it was just ridiculous. There's just no way many of us could do it. And also there were some issues here that needed to it just didn't work. The timing didn't work. Everything was planned to go, things were packed, it was all happening, and then it had to be delayed, and now I'm back to starting from ground one. So I would say, from every single shut door, I see that as an opportunity to push them open. When it comes to love and relationships, I would love to be swept off my feet and meet someone and spend the rest of my life with someone. Absolutely. Would I absolutely love that. I want someone who's consistent, knows what they want, and goes and get it, because everybody talks the talk, but they don't walk the walk.
That's
I'm
right.
not the easiest of persons to be with, but I'm pretty tolerant person. But my life is not always easy to be with.
Right.
So I would think that, yes, just because you get a shut door and you get a disappointment, there are some things that I can't do. Like, I can't have children. Would I like to meet someone who has children so I could at least be a friend or a stepmom? Absolutely. I'd love that. But at the moment, my second child is trying to kill my third child.
And eat him. Yes.
Well, they get on really well. They're really good friends. Like Crowley's very fond of Vamp, but Vamp hasn't quite worked. That there's a lid on there and he can't actually get in there. But yes, from every door, yeah, for sure. I think it's for me, it's like, I'm like, look, don't tell me what I can't do, because it makes me want it even more.
Yes. And, our failures are obviously the things that can motivate us on to do something better. My friend Dan Madsen is in the room, and he's a big Abraham Lincoln aficionado. and he's got his own museum in his house of Abraham Lincoln artifacts and letters and things, and his collection, just as well as Mark Twain. But it was Lincoln that talked about perseverance. And he said that perseverance is something that you do. I look at Dan Madsen himself. He's a prime model of someone who has taken and built. I don't know how many failures Dan has had on the way, but he seems to be one of those effervescent fellows that continues to move on despite the setbacks you have. You do what you're going to do, just like you have done. I consider myself to be someone. Now, the people who know me the best know I can whine, I can caterwaul, I can piss in vinegar, I can cry or weep or whatever. But for the most part, I tend to be a positive person that tries to strive for that positive end in something.
Yeah.
And so I'm always looking forward, always looking for the next step. That doesn't mean people don't know my despairs and my woes and my disappointments.
I've never seen you have your be bitch, whinge and moan. We call it bitch, whinge and moan.
Bitch, whinge and moan.
I have never, I mean, you and I have talked a long time over the years, right? And we've talked about all our problems. You're always positive, even when you're talking about the bad stuff that pisses you off or you're going through a tough time.
Wow.
You'll never run. I mean, in all the years, and I've known you almost
20
decades,
years, almost.
Like, I've never seen you do that. And I think some of the bad things you go through, or at least the things that didn't happen, move you on to where, like they say, you are where you're supposed to be. I don't know if I believe in that. But at the same time, I think that through the bad stuff makes you want to thrive for the good stuff and push for the good stuff. Like, God forbid your marriage ended tomorrow. God forbid your leg, you lost your leg or something tomorrow. You have enough strength and character in you, Scotty, that you would survive it because you are a strong man. You've got over so much. It doesn't mean to say that it wouldn't hurt you. It doesn't mean to say that you wouldn't be traumatized by it, but you would get over it because the spirit inside you is stronger, right? It's so stronger than that.
I will tell you, one of my goals is I can bitch and piss and moan about something to my friends, but you will never see me not proceed or not try something or not move forward on account of it. I might have things that disappoint me. And I got to tell you, in the last few years with the physical stuff that started 6 years ago, it was really hard to overcome that some days. It's like, I remember just a couple of years ago, I was standing out on the patio, I was smoking a cigarette, and I was thinking to myself, well, that's it. Fuck it. This is as good as it gets. And it's not going to get any better. And I was at zero. I felt I was at zero. And I had to do everything I could to pump myself up to get out of that. And I rely very little on other people's advice when it comes to that, although I have a lot of people who like to give me their advice freely. I need to rely on myself to do that. I look at, there's things like, I got a bunch of examples written down here of people who faced failure and moved on. Look at who is the wealthiest woman in the world today that we know of. It's an author. It's J.K. Rowling.
J.K. Rowling, yeah.
And she's the wealthiest woman in the world because of Harry Potter. Now, did you know, however, and it was my first agent that told me this when I was getting Tam O'Hare published. He says, did you know that J.K. Rowling, whose book came out just a few years before that, he said, do you know that she had 28 publishers reject her before she found a small publisher that would pick her up, and they published the book. And then it was, I want to say his first name was Ed Levine or Devine Levine from Scholastic Books, saw the book on a shelf in London. And he picked it up and he said, I like this book. And they bought the rights for Scholastic from this small publisher for whatever exorbitant amount they paid. And suddenly she went from living in a trailer to being the richest woman in the world after, well, it was a few books later. And of course, all the things that she has the rights to. So you've got somebody like her. You got Steven Spielberg, who was rejected by the University of California Film School 3 times. You got the Beatles, who were rejected by 3 different record companies before they were signed. So there's there's thousands of examples like that. And so what do we need to do? We need to grasp the things that we consider to be our greatest failures and move on. And I got to tell you, there was a point not very long ago where I said, I'm so done trying.
Yes.
And once you give up trying, then you don't move anywhere. And so you have to keep trying. You have to keep putting your foot forward. You have to, the disappointments have to be the chewed up fodder for your lighting the fuel in your engine to move forward.
I mean, health-wise, you've been through a battle. And what got me every time you were in hospital was your courage, where you were in hospital with a very dire situation at one point, and you got through that with your wit, your humor, your courage. And that's something I've always admired about you. And you know what? It's something that I actually don't talk about it that much, because I find it's a situation in my life that is very painful. But when I first got glandular fever, which is mono, which led to me getting chronic fatigue, I was bedbound for 9 months and I had to use a wheelchair. And there have been quite a few times in my life I have been stuck in a wheelchair, couldn't walk, couldn't stand light, noise, sound. And people see me as I am now. They don't realize that behind that was a young girl at 17 who was bedbound, and I lost my work, my college, my friends, my boyfriend. And I thought I was going to die. And my mum has great strength in her, and she inspired me to keep going. And she said, this is not your path is from this difficult path. And it didn't just go from the chronic fatigue, it then led on to other things, because autoimmune tends to make other autoimmunes. And I have quite a few health conditions now which all interplay. But one thing I've learned is, if I can help somebody from what I've been through, then it made a difference. So I trained as a counsellor. I went into victim support. I tried to channel my feeling useless and worthless as a person, because I didn't have anything in society. I wasn't important to anyone. Who wants to date the girl who's like in a wheelchair or can't do this, that, and the other? And I wanted to make a difference. And I look back, and my whole life has been like that. Some people could handle it, some people couldn't. They came and they went. But you know what? I still remember that 17-year-old girl. And I still remember in her I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. Who knew that I would get on a plane and travel across the globe and time and time again? Who knew that I would be on the show one day like this with you? Who knew that I would, have the opportunities being offered to me? And so, has our life turned out the way we wanted it? Probably not. But we have been given a life where I think you and I make a difference, even if it's on a very small scale. Somebody somewhere will hear our words, and whether it's now, 10 years down the line, wherever it is, if it touches one person, it's made a difference. And
that's it.
It's,
I look at the things we're talking about. I don't want anybody to have the misconception that you and I are saying, look at us, look what we do, model yourself after me. We're not saying that.
No.
We're giving examples to say, look, we've all been in that same place. And this is what we do to help work ourselves to where we need to be.
Yeah.
And it's not to capitalize on the emotional loss or the pain or the disappointment or anything like that.
Yeah.
It's to try to capitalize and focus on what still lies ahead and the things we have to do. the things yet to come. Nothing is over until it's over.
And I never thought I'd have a 67 Impala. I mean, oh my God, I was
Right.
so far from that. Is unbelievable. And no, I never thought I would be given the opportunity to have it. And I know I'm just a guardian right now. I know that she will move on and someone else will have her. But it's like I have achieved things. I might not have achieved the children. I might not have right now the marriage, the relationship or whatever, which would enhance, not complete me, because it shouldn't complete me, but enhance my life.
Enhance,
definitely enhance my life. But at the same time, I think, you know what, make a difference. There's a very true saying, which it was a line in Doctor Who, and it's actually on my Instagram. And I've always thought it just really resonated with me. And it was, never be cruel, never be cowardly. Hate is always foolish and love is always wise. Laugh hard, love harder, be kind, make a difference. And that's our words that I live by. And I might not always be good at it, but I do my damnedest, that's for sure, as you do.
Damn, I'm right there with you. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And I look at those were great last words to close the show with, but I want to add one of my favorite quotes. And you'd think for as many times as I said it, I'd know it off the top of my head, but let's see if I get it right. It's not the critic who counts. It's not the one who points out how the strong ones stumbled or where the doer of the deeds could have done them better. But the credit belongs with the man or the woman who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly yet checkered by failure. So far better it is to have tried mighty things, dared mighty deeds. And there's more to this, but he ends it by saying, than to dwell with those poor souls who know neither the thrill of victory or the agony of defeat. And so, that's where I decided a long time ago I want to be in life. I want to be that person who loves more, who gives more, who cares more.
Yeah.
And even when I'm in those situations where I feel like I've got to put on the front and show that I care less, I can't do it because it's not natural for me.
No.
So I think that's a good place to wrap this all up. And I want to ask you got anything else you want to add before we go?
No, I just want to feel like this was a really important topic, especially where I am in my life right now. And I'm open with food for thought. And so it really encapsulates just how I'm feeling right now.
Yeah. Well, and on that note, welcome home to London when you'd rather be in Calgary.
I would. It's got to be said. Sorry, London. I love you, but...
And that was frankly the catalyst for this whole show, was knowing your disappointment and not being where you want to be.
And I didn't know we were going to talk about this till literally minutes before. So
I surprised her with this one.
You did.
And I will tell you this: there are many of us who would rather be in London than where we are. So some of us Anglophiles, Scotophiles,
come over.
Welsh files.
Exploit me. Make the most of it, right?
Oh, behave. All right, everyone. Thank you for being with us today. We're going to end this. We aren't going to do any kind of after show, Wendy, but I'll talk to you for a little bit after we're off air. And so everyone, thank you for giving us your time, for sharing this time with us. Let people know about this broadcast if you like it. Go down and hit the like button. That'll help us and it'll help the algorithms and all that stuff on YouTube. Next week, we will be back on air with subspace.radio as we fix whatever this problem is and try to figure out the wiring.
Oh,
That's got us all flummoxed right now.
I've got a black cat about to join us.
And your black cat is about to do whatever your black cat's about to do.
This is Vamp.
There he is. There's Vamp. And my black cat, Oscar, is sitting over there, looking like a black throw pillow.
It's like, I'm here, look.
And there he is. Hi, it's me. I blend into my mom's blouse.
It's weird, you know, like we've done the shows and Henry's always asleep anyway, but Vamp, this is the first time he's actually made an appearance.
Oh, how about that? All right. Vamp, good to have you. Wendy, great having you today. Great seeing you. And you and I will talk in a little bit. Everybody else, thanks for being here. Thanks for coming on board, and join us next time. And until then, live long and prosper.
Hey,
I hit the wrong button, so we're back. We're still live.
Back.
Hold on a second. Now let's get out of here. Well, is it going to play or not?
Just me, still here. Let's turn this off.